You love when I do that, don't you?
It startles me every time.
What is happening, everybody? It's Wednesday. It's Boss Up and List Day. I do want to say
good morning.
Good morning. And I see a lot of people in the chat that I'm happy to see. We've got some heavy hitters in here. We got Susie Eads in the house.
Susie Eads.
What is happening?
Good to see you.
And I see Mandy is here as well, saying hello from Canada.
Is it finally warm yet there, Mandy? I don't know. I feel like you were in the frozen tundra for the last 19 months at least.
Yeah, for sure. What has happened to everybody? Man, what a crazy week.
I feel like 2020 in general, holy hell.
It is the gift that just keeps on giving.
It's like herpes. It just keeps getting worse.
I don't know.
I feel like.
Maybe I feel like it's more like what is the one that like makes you go crazy? It's like syphilis. Goes untreated and it just keeps getting worse and worse until you go crazy, and then next thing you know, I don't know, it's just real bad. It's real bad, guys. You need to get that treated, okay? We need to get 2020 needs to be treated with some ointment.
2020 needs a shot of penicillin or something.
Big time. Maybe like a good 60-day treatment of just like every day. I don't know.
Oh, my goodness.
What's going on, everybody? Seriously.
Yeah, Danica says Tiger King is the highlight for 2020. Yeah, can we just get back to a time when we were discussing Joe Exotic and how exotic he is? Because him and his toothless men were a lot easier topics to tackle than some of the crap that we need to be talking about.
I don't know. He was pretty rotten too, though.
Oh, he was pretty rotten, but he was a heck of a lot easier to tackle him as a topic.
I don't know, guys.
Sandra says 2020, the STD of the planet.
Yeah, pretty much.
Seriously, guys, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm going to have some serious PTSD from 2020.
By the way, Sandra, I don't know if you noticed, you have a little wrench. I just went ahead and was like, boo, and gave you one. Thought we could use some more moderators in present days. We've got some tough stuff that we're going to be talking about. But yeah, good to see everybody. Thanks for coming. This is kind of a different show because it's our Wednesday show, our Boss Up and List show, which just a quick little breakdown. It's just like whatever. It's like our day that we decide to do like a whole listing marathon, setting your goals. We put up a post in the Facebook group, the Boss Facebook group every Wednesday, so people can set their goals for the day, over the week, whether it's around listing or whatever. And then we have our little businessy show. And lately we've been doing the masked seller, which has been fun. But sometimes topics come up and we're like, we got to talk about it,
Yeah, I mean, this is a conversation that needs to happen, much like our conversation for our special show tomorrow. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But right now, obviously, this is the topic of du jour happening at eBay. This is information that had just come out in the last 48 hours or so. And if you don't know what's happening on eBay, I suggest you Google eBay right now in any way, and this is probably going to be the first topic that comes up. It's all over the news. It's international news.
It's crazy.
It's been on CNN. It's been on, it's obviously all over the reseller Facebook groups and message boards and things like that. If you're on eBay and you have a store and you have Seller Hub on your store, you're going to see under announcements a letter from Jordan Sweetnam that has his take on this, and he's actually done a couple of them. So
I actually linked his Facebook. It's like his personal eBay Facebook page, so it's not like his personal page, but it is his.
It's his eBay page. It's open. He will accept you as a friend if you friend request him. He does accept friends, and he does answer everything himself. It is not moderated. Messages are not moderated, and the messages on his page are not moderated by a third party. It's actually him.
It's him.
He has made comments before like, give me a break. I'm trying to get to this, but I'm trying to feed my kids breakfast right now. So,
by the way, his position, he's the general manager of America's market. So I think that includes Canada. Anyway, so he's been handling a lot of this stuff going on. Lady Luck Junk Danica has given us a $7.77 super chat and says, here's to 2021. 7 is a lucky number. She's got 3 of them up there, so that's a good thing. So thank you so much, Danica. We really appreciate it. But I do want to say right off the bat, like, you know what? I know that this is, you know, obviously Jordan has said in his statements, this is an incredibly embarrassing event chapter happening for eBay. This is very embarrassing. I mean, you know, yes, it's all over the place, because even if it wasn't eBay, even if it was like some other company, we'd be like going, what is happening?
This is a good Dateline episode, or a 2020 episode. I can hear it moderated right now from the who's the guy that does the very, very dramatic voiceovers for Dateline in 2020. He would be perfect at this. I'm sure this is going to be a 2020 episode at some point, or a Dateline episode. Yeah, I mean, the reality is we can't not talk about it, and we shouldn't not talk about it. It does affect us all tangentially, as we are all part of the eBay community, and this is happening. This did happen within our eBay community. I have a feeling this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think there's going to be a lot more that's going to come out over time.
So we'll get into like the details of what happened, but I want to say off the top that there have been a lot of changes at eBay over the last year, a lot of changes in leadership. And I will say, like, you know, I'm an optimistic person, so I really am hopeful that a lot of the changes that have been happening that we've seen before this all blew up, I'm hopeful that there are some real tonal changes to eBay's leadership, and that lots of good things are coming. And so I want to give some credit to the people who have stepped up, like Jordan. Now, Jordan Sweetnam, like we said, I have the link to his Facebook down below.
He worked for eBay. He worked for eBay previously, and then came back right after the shakeup with Devin here at eBay. And he's been back with eBay since last year, since right after Open last year, actually.
Yeah, it's been less than a year. But what I wanted to say is, you know, even before all of this, you know, in the past, I feel like eBay has had a real problem with communicating and being more transparent about things that are going on. And I feel like Jordan especially has completely changed that, the way that it is with eBay, you know, stuff that comes up like the, you know, managed payments. Things that sellers have issues with, rather than, you know, having radio silence from eBay, which has tended to be the way it was in the past. He has been taking these things head on. He has been making posts, like we said, on his personal eBay page on Facebook. He has been listening to sellers. He's been answering questions. And so it's not like, you know,
and not just about this.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's not just about this. It was before this. This was already happening. It's not like, oh, now we suddenly have to pretend like we're super open and wanting to talk to sellers. He was already doing that, and I want to give him credit for that.
Yeah, I feel like he was already starting to open a dialogue with sellers. I think the messages and the content that has been coming out from both him and Marnie, with the videos that have been coming out weekly or bi-weekly now, every Mondays with Marnie, I think a lot of those videos talking about things that are happening within the company have and changes that are coming and upcoming in certain atmospheres within the company. I think it's important to note that they have been trying to communicate and connect with sellers in a way that I've seen that it's pretty unprecedented. And, you know, a lot of people know that I've been on eBay for a very long time. You know, OG eBay, like, you didn't even know who the people were at eBay. You didn't know who the people were that worked at eBay until a few years ago. So
yeah, I really feel like with Marnie coming into, she's been with eBay for a while, but she moved to a different role that was away from sellers, and now she's back as the
VP of hard goods.
Now she's the VP of seller operations and engagement, which I think is a great role for her. I think before that change for her, before bringing Jordan on, I feel like there was a period of time of about at least a year or so where I feel like we were really going into some dark times with the leadership at eBay and how they connected with sellers. And in my opinion,
and I remember, I will say, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I will say that I even said this a couple of times on this show. We are not eBay bashers, but we're also pretty realists, I like to say. I think that it's very clear that Katie and I both love eBay as a platform and as a company, and we talk very highly about the company, but we're also going to call it out when there's crap that's wrong. Yeah. And I think that makes for balanced opinions and balanced programming, because if you are just an eBay cheerleader all the time and don't acknowledge when crap is wrong, then you lose a little bit of credibility with your audience.
Our audience, you guys wouldn't listen to us if all we did was defend every single thing. And, you know, any company, any platform that we sell on, sometimes they get it wrong, sometimes they get it right. And when they get it wrong, it needs to be addressed, because the hope is that changes will be made, because all we care about is that it is the best platform for us sellers to be able to make a living on. And honestly, eBay is the only platform out there that has a connection to their sellers and is part of the community with their sellers. No other platform does it like eBay does. And so it was really hard, like in recent history at eBay. I do feel like things had gotten very dark as far as the leadership and the connections to the sellers. And what I was going to say is I think that this, as crazy and bizarre and as much as they want to put it on the 6 bad apples within the company, I think that this is a culmination of what was happening before at eBay. I think that it set the stage for something like this to be able to happen, even if it was a small number of people taking it in a very, very bad direction.
Yeah, I think, well, like anything else, there are bad people in any company, in any walk of life, in any type of business, and there are good people. And eBay still and always has been, with 13,000 employees, the majority of them are very good people that care about the company, that care about the business, that care about sellers in general. Like anything else, even if we don't like changes they make because they make them for business reasons or bottom line reasons or what have you, I don't think anything is ever nefarious towards sellers.
No.
I think it's a bottom line. It's a business. They make business decisions, and sometimes we agree with them and sometimes we don't, and that's life. But I do believe that the majority of the people there are good people,
absolutely.
and they're still good people. And, as much I miss Bob, hashtag we miss Bob, according to Teresa. I thought Bob was very good at seller engagement as well, and very good at connecting with sellers, and came across as a very genuine person. Now, granted, he works for eBay. I don't know him on a personal level. I've had several interactions with him, and they've always been pleasant.
Yeah.
Your mileage may vary, but I can only talk about my interactions with him personally. Now, with what's going on here, I feel like I think there are some people that probably were in positions they shouldn't have been in, and they are being called out for. There's no excuse for what happened and how they targeted Ina and her husband. Now, if you don't know what happened, there is a woman and her husband that run an e-commerce blog. They've had this blog for 20 years. It used to be called Auction Bites, and now it's e-commerce bites. And I've known of Ina since I've been on eBay, because she was very active in the message boards back in the day when we were when that was all we had as communication on eBay. And she has a blog that's somewhat controversial because she calls eBay out on a lot of crap, and sometimes she's pretty critical of the company.
It's highly critical. It is.
Sometimes it's not, but sometimes it is. And the reality is, who cares? It's her right. It's her right to have a blog about or against anything or any company. And the fact that people that worked within the organization from the top down, there's a reason why there's a picture of Devin on this screenshot, from the top down, went after and deliberately and systematically tried to destroy this woman and her husband in a stalking criminal manner is crazy.
Yeah. Now, first of all, I want to say there have been a lot of articles about this. Some of them talk about Devin specifically. A lot of them don't. I do feel like the coverage of this has been terrible, because there are details in the charging documents that, for some reason, if I were a journalist writing a story, there's way better stuff than they sent live insects to somebody's house. Like, it's weird that that's like the thing that they latch onto. So what I have attached below is the actual charging documents. Don't read the articles. Don't read anything else. Read the charging documents. That is the story you want to read. It's a good read.
Those are court
It's really
documents.
Interesting. But it is the charging documents. It is the FBI agent who put together all of this, basically going through and explaining exactly what happened. They had a number of confidential witnesses, I think like 3 that they name in there, or don't name, but they call them confidential witnesses. They don't refer to anybody by name, but there are things that make it very obvious who different people are. Like, they only refer to e-commerce bites as the newsletter, and they refer to Ina as victim 1 and her husband as victim 2. But then they put dates and blog titles all over, so all you have to do is go look and do a little cross-referencing. Right, it's there. They also refer to an executive 1 and an executive 2, and again, because of the articles and titles that they refer to, it becomes very obvious that executive 1 is Devin Wenig. It is Devin.
There's no question. Executive 2, there is still a little bit of
we think we know.
We think we know who it is, but we don't know who it is for sure. So it's it's that's a little bit
based on
less obvious.
People who left around the same time as Devin Wenig, it's kind of, to us, it seems a little obvious of who it probably is. But
it was
again,
the head of security's boss, probably, was the other person that left. He was the head of something that had to do with security.
I disagree with that
Okay.
for my own reasons, but there is a very particular person that I think it is. But anyway, it doesn't matter, because personally, I think it's going to come out. I mean, I think that this is only the beginning, because they've now charged 6 people who are going to have it. It's going to be within their best interest to reduce any kind of punishment that they get, whether it's jail time or whatever. And they're probably going to be able to give up more information, because Executive 2 was the one who charged them with dealing with the situation. Now we talk about Devin and how he was involved. So far, they don't have any direct evidence, or they haven't given any direct evidence that he knew exactly what they were doing. He claims he does not know what they were doing. He claims that. However, if you do read the text messages and the communications that he had in the charging documents, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say he had no idea that this was the route they were going to take to shut down this blog. He does say repeatedly, he says in one message, he says, "We are going to crush this lady. We are going to crush this lady." He says, I think it was the Wall Street Journal also came out with an article talking about him and like his compensation. And he said in the message, "The Journal is next on the list after the victim," is how they refer to her as victim 1. And then he later said, "I couldn't care less what she says. Take her down." So let's say
he says these things to his subordinate employee.
Right. Now, does that mean that he knew that they were going to then task a security team with harassing and cyberstalking? Doesn't prove that, does it? But at the very least, I mean, what does he mean when he says take her down? Is he meaning like, let's send our legal team after her and get the blog taken down, like with like legal threats? Like, how is that okay?
Yeah,
that's abuse. That's abuse of
power.
Abuse of power. And so that right there is entirely problematic, especially based on the thing that I shared. Let me just pop that back up here. When this is the statement that he gave: "I have spent my career defending press freedoms." I don't know. Doesn't really sound like it when I see those messages.
Doesn't really ring true to me. Yeah. And you know, I kind of liked Devin. I thought he was well spoken. Clearly, if you're somebody that's used to speaking on behalf of a big corporation, you probably should be well spoken. He was better than some that I've heard. I don't know him on a personal level. Never did. I'm not going to claim to. No. But I do know that that is certainly not the type of person that you want to be CEO of a large corporation.
No.
And I'm pretty sure that was the reason why he quit.
Yeah.
Was because all this stuff was coming out.
Well, my understanding is that he was let go without cause. And then he was given a very fat severance. And I think that was probably an attempt to keep the story quiet. But I think that the fact that Executive 1, aka Devin, telling Executive 2, whoever that is, that this needed to be taken care of, the fact that the team that was taking care of it was a security team as opposed to the legal department.
I feel like that security team was almost, and again, you know, a lot of this is going to be supposition on our parts, but you know, I feel like that security team was almost enabled to run as a gang, like against people. I have to feel that these are not the only 2 people that are silenced. I know for a fact that there were other people that were silenced for speaking out against eBay, because I know who they are personally. So I don't think that that's the culture that we want to be a part of. And in response to some of this, I will say, to his credit, Jordan has said very plainly, that is not the way eBay works.
Yeah.
They welcome criticism. You are never going to be, you should never have to fear retribution for speaking out against the company as a seller, as an influencer, as a whatever you want to call yourself. You have every right to speak out against the company, because it is up to us to hold them accountable to a certain standard. Right. They don't have to like everything you say.
No.
And I'm sure they're not going to like a lot of things people say, but you have every right to speak out against that company, and they have no right to try to silence you or to make you face retribution in any manner against your business or against your company.
No, not at all. And here's the thing, like we've been saying, you know, we're really hopeful about the leadership that we're seeing come in between Jordan and Marnie. I don't really know a lot about the new CEO. We have a new, there's a new head of community that's coming in. I don't know anything about her, but hopefully we're gonna learn more soon.
We'll find a little bit more about her next week. I'm excited about that.
I'm definitely hopeful. I do want, as a seller in this community, as leaders in this community, I think it is our responsibility to hold eBay accountable for what has happened and how it goes going forward. And I think that there have been a lot of changes that have been really positive, but I do think that this situation, this story, speaks to something that was more than just a few bad apples, that did have something to do with a culture at eBay. Of course, I don't think the culture had anything to do with like illegally going out and harassing people and hurting people. Like, I think it was like some crazy shit that happened, but I do think that there was a culture there, at least before, and I think it still continues a little bit, of intolerance of critical speech against eBay, intolerance of criticism against eBay. And when I say intolerance, I can say, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, I'm not going to say the person's name, but I know for a fact there is a person that's still employed at eBay who has gone out of their way to target sellers who are critical of eBay. And this person has used legal ways they've used the legal department there in order to intimidate sellers and to force them to not speak critically against eBay. And that's not okay. And this person has done this, and they're still employed there. And they've also gone after sellers who have been critical of eBay and used it in order to take opportunities from them, to block them from being able to participate in things and take things away from them, and including putting up, using their eBay accounts that are their livelihood as a threat to keep them in line. And I think that as long as that person's employed there, then they haven't dealt with the whole problem. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But it's an issue, and it needs to be dealt with at some point, sooner than later.
Yeah, so, I think at the very least that the people that still perpetuate that type of behavior no longer need to be employed by that company.
Yeah. There is an old guard that needs to be cleared up, because I think that, like I said, there's great things coming for eBay. I really do believe that. I really do believe that. And there's a reason why I'm wearing my t-shirt I'm wearing today. This is a eBay t-shirt. It was a pride t-shirt for eBay, but I think it really is about the fact that eBay is all of us. We are a community. We're a family. We all want the best for the platform, because I know for us, it's our main source of income. There was a time when all I would talk about is eBay being my favorite platform and how much I loved eBay. I will say, because of experiences that we've had over the last couple of years, for me, it's become more of just a place that I sell on, and I want to go back to what it was.
It's a place, just a place that I do business on now, and I still care about certain employees at eBay. I care about certain former employees from eBay. I still love eBay. I love eBay as my primary platform, and I love the community that we've built because of eBay, like you, all of you people. But do I have a personal love in my heart for the company anymore? Not the way I did 2 years ago.
We want it back. We can get it back. We can get it back.
I would like to get that part back. I think that there need to be some changes that need to happen. I think that due to certain things that happened with us, there has been a lot of love lost, and yet we don't talk about it really. Yeah. So because we still believe in the company and still teach people how to sell on the platform and talk about it.
Yeah. I think I see TRR has been saying some stuff about some of the details of this whole case of these 6 people that were fired. I mean, that's the thing, is it's like, it's really dark, and I don't understand, like, some of these newspaper articles, I'm like, I went and read the charging documents. Okay, so this guy Bao, I think that's how you pronounce his name, James Bao, he was the director of safety and security at eBay, and he was kind of one running the operation at the direction of Executive 2, who we don't know who that person is. And this guy Bao, at one point, he had like a picture of some guys that he said were Samoan gang members. And he said that if their distraction campaign, they call it their distraction campaign, if it didn't work, he was going to send this gang to the victim's house, and that they weren't good guys.
And why are we randomly picking Samoan gang members?
I don't know. It's really weird.
That's just an odd thing.
And he said that whatever happened after that would be out of his control. Like, that's crazy. That's dangerous and crazy. So it wasn't just like, oh, we're going to send some live insects and really freak them out.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't actually do this with the Samoan gang thing, but this was something that is in the charging documents that he talked about as a potential next step of escalation.
Yeah.
So
Jen asked, are we afraid of retribution for talking like we are right now? You know what? There's absolutely nothing more that can be done to us that hasn't already been done.
Well, I mean, sure,
they could. I think, but am I afraid of it? No, I do think this person has wielded all the influence that they've been able to wield at this point. And I don't think that eBay in general would tolerate anything further. That's how I feel.
I will say that we know more than anyone what can happen if you speak out about something, or if you speak out critically about someone and they don't like it, and they use and misuse and abuse the law and the legal system to try and shut you up. It's definitely something that happens. It costs a lot of money to deal with it. And it definitely is used to try and silence people and ruin them financially. And it's not okay. So, I mean, there's always that fear. I mean, at least we have the right people to help us if it happens again.
It's true.
Right?
It's
I
true.
mean, I don't know, but
it's true.
I don't know. The reason I guess we're talking about it to this level is because this has come out.
Yeah, so
there's no better
Debbie
time.
Porter has a good comment right there. She's been on eBay since '98. These last 2 years have made me question being on the platform. Something very wrong has happened there. Time to clean house and get back to business, and we are their business. That is, it perfectly sums up, I think, how a lot of us feel. These last 2 years have been rough, and it does come from the top down, obviously. So when it's allowed to happen in the ways that it did happen in this case with this lawsuit we're talking about, this criminal case we're talking about. I think that means that there is a lot of stuff going on that we don't know about. We'll probably never know about. We'll never hear about. And that's just life. But I do think that the people that are involved in eBay right now, and the people that are at the higher ups at eBay right now, are eyes wide open to clearly eyes wide open to what can and does happen when you have an ugly culture, an ugly group of people trying to perpetuate an ugly culture. Yeah. So I think that change is happening. I think it's happening. I think it is. And I'm especially pleased to see the response from Jordan, in eBay, and how open and forthcoming and honest and earnest he is in his messaging. I can only hope that it is genuine. My hopeful side likes to say that it is, and wants to believe that it is. Yeah. And if it is, then he's, let's see what happens.
Yeah. Real quick, Connecticut Girl give us a $9.99 super chat, so I have to run, but just wanted to let you know I've missed you guys. Please don't let this eBay news dampen your spirits. XOXO. Thank you so much, Connecticut Girl. I don't know if you've already run off, but we really appreciate your support. My spirits aren't dampened by this. If anything, it kind of gives me more fire to be like, we need to hold the platform accountable. And I gotta say, I do feel bad for Jordan. Like, he's not responsible for any of this. He's the one that's having to be the public facing person who's handling all of this. And so again, we really admire him, and I do think that there is a lot of good that's going to come out after this. But I also think this is the time to, I guess, continue some pressure to really make those changes and to establish, I guess, a complete intolerance of any kind of pressure against sellers, retaliation against sellers, any of that kind of stuff, because it just is not appropriate. And the reality is, it's like, since when has threatening people or trying to control a conversation ever worked in the history of ever for anyone? Like, that's just not, it's not going to work. People are going to fight back against that. It's not, eventually it's going to all fall apart.
Let's take a look at what's been happening on the interwebs for the past several months. I hate this. No, you're wrong. I'm right. We hate, all it is people fighting back and forth. Their opinion is the only opinion that matters, and their opinion is the only opinion that's correct. If we all decided to ruin the lives of people that did not agree with something that we said or did, you'd spend an awful lot of time hating everybody in the world. It's a culture that's happening in the society in general that is pretty ugly right now.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, so Jen says, I cannot for the life of me understand why they would risk their jobs for something so petty. I mean, and I guess that's what I'm saying. When I talk about like the culture, I know from the years that I've been on eBay and hearing about, like, for instance, this particular blog, online newsletter, I know the opinions a lot of people have of it, and it's very negative, and like they are critical of eBay, and it's like this kind of like I was saying earlier, like this intolerance of criticism, and kind of like they're they're the enemy, and they're saying all these horrible things about eBay, and they're making our jobs hard, and the reality is, it's like, do they really have that power? Like, you're focusing on this like some YouTubers or somebody who writing a blog is somehow gonna bring everything down, and it's like, you have to be open to that criticism, and look for the truth in it, and see how
take
you
it
can
for what it's
improve
worth.
the platform.
Take it for what it's worth. Read the blog if you choose to. There's always been some nuggets of good information in there. And if you don't agree with it, you don't agree with it. You just, whatever. If the blog is about you and it's not painting you in a favorable light, maybe you need to look to why.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, but in looking at the stuff that Devin was saying in this charging document, dude, your fragile little ego. Like, are you kidding me? Like, if you go and read the articles that he was so upset about, they're not even like salacious. They're not that interesting. It's like, who freaking cares? His wife was contacting Executive 2 because she was upset about something that was written about her husband on e-commerce bites. It's like, are you serious? You're like a multi-millionaire, like
CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
And somebody said some mean things about you, or
and
told everybody how much money you make.
And some lady in Massachusetts said to a few thousand people that something negative about you. How is that relevant to you and your job and your company that you work for?
So super glad that he's gone, because this is embarrassing for eBay, but I think it should be especially embarrassing to Devin, and I hope that more comes of this, because I'm sorry, but either way, what he was doing was completely wrong as a CEO. Whether he just wanted them to be taken down by using the legal system to bully them, which is bad enough, or if he actually did know exactly what was happening, either way, disgusting behavior for a CEO of a company. And I think it should follow him for the rest of his career. So,
and I hope it does. I hope it does. Somebody like that does not deserve to be in a position of power.
Nope.
Anywhere.
Not at all.
Anywhere.
Nope.
Not just at eBay, anywhere. People that abuse their power shouldn't be in a position of power. And I think that holds true across pretty much a whole lot of bullshit going on in this country right now. I don't know what to say about that, but
I don't know. But anyway, so we do love eBay, and we hope that we get to be a part of a better eBay moving forward. Like I said, there's great people there. We'd love to be able to help them, and we want everybody to be able to be on board. And listen, there's lots of people. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been on any kind of like post on like eBay for Business, or anything that has to, or where they do like a live video. There's some obnoxious people that just want to go in and they want to spam the crap out of it and freak out about every little thing that eBay does. And I get it. It gets exhausting. I would have a hard time having to deal with that day in and day out. And it's just not productive.
That's why I'm not in a position of power.
It's not productive. But with that said, it's not all or nothing. Okay. It's like, there are voices who want to give constructive criticism because we want the platform better for all of us. And I don't want this whole story. I don't want all of this to ruin eBay as a company. I don't. And it shouldn't have to.
It does not reflect the true eBay culture, and it doesn't reflect the majority of employees and sellers that make up the eBay community. Yes, it is just a few bad apples, and we can compare this conversation to a lot of conversations that are happening on social media about various topics right now. The actions and behavior of a few bad people within an organization do not reflect the actions and behavior of everyone within the organization. Yet they should be held accountable.
Yeah. It is a leadership problem.
It is a leadership problem. Changes need to happen, and it appears as though those changes are happening.
There's a few more that could be made, so we'll be waiting to see what happens, because, like I said, all the cancer hasn't been cut out of there. So I'd like to see a little bit more.
I'd like
Just
to see
saying.
it. I'd like to see it as well. And you know, like to speak to what a few people are saying in the chat. Yes, the blog in question is one that has spoken out very, very frequently about eBay and against eBay and their policies and things and changes that have happened on the platform. Again, they're right to do so. If you don't like the opinions and you don't like what they're saying, then don't subscribe to the blog. Don't read the blog. But that couple has every right in the world to say anything they want in any manner they want to.
Yeah.
And I don't critique them for doing that. So
you know how much like negative press and criticism Jeff Bezos gets, and he like sits at the very top of his huge mountain of money and laughs at all of us because it's like, who cares? He's like the richest man ever. I mean, at this point, I think he might be the richest man in the world. I can't remember if he is or not, but he's coming real close. But it's just so silly. It's silly, but serious. It's silly that individuals let the pettiest, stupidest stuff bother them. And it's very serious that the result of that is that people get hurt, either potentially physically, or they are terrorized, or their businesses are threatened. And that it's like, come on, like, are you kidding me? Like, it's not acceptable at all. It isn't.
It said a couple of times in different ways in the chat. You know, you have the right to say anything you want. You have the right to feel anything you want to a certain degree. You can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. You know, there are certain things you can't say, but for the most part, that's called freedom of speech. You know, we fight for those First Amendment rights. Many, many people have fought for those rights. You can say anything you want. You can choose to respond or choose not to respond. If you cannot respond, or if you cannot react in a normal adult human manner, then maybe you just shouldn't respond. If you are that triggered by something someone says to you or says about you, that you need to resort to violence and threats regarding these words, then that's your problem. And that's a problem that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, for sure. You seriously, guys, read, like I said, I linked the charging documents down below. Don't read the articles, because it's like the good stuff, all the juicy stuff is in the charging documents, and it's nuts. It's insane. And yeah, they said, somebody was saying that, you know, there had to be other people that knew about it. I mean, listen, we don't know the full story. We know 6 people lost their jobs and 6 people were charged.
Scroll up.
What am I scrolling up to?
That other comment by Man of Vintage. You scroll up.
Okay, I'm going.
Right there. Send one of us a message through Facebook. We would love to
meet up with you.
Meet up with you and have a drink for sure.
Absolutely. Now I don't remember what I was saying.
Sorry.
It was something very important.
It's always very important.
It was very, talking about who knew. You know, I honestly, this is my prediction. A lot more is going to come from this, because we have 6 people who were charged. That's what the charging document covers. So 6 people were charged. Then you have, of course, you had the 3, I think there were at least 3 confidential witnesses. And then you have executive 1 and executive 2, which are Devin, and then we don't know who the other person is. But those, the people that were charged, I think it was probably based on the witnesses, who I'm assuming were also eBay employees. They also subpoenaed, like, I think they had Apple, stuff from Apple, like all their records and stuff like that. And text
they got all their
like
phone records and text messages, emails, the whole deal.
So the charging documents just came out. I'm assuming that that's when they were all arrested or whatever it was that happened. And like I said earlier, I would imagine that they will give up more information in order to lessen their own sentences, because I think the charges could be like 5 years in prison. So I would imagine that there's going to be a lot more coming out about this, because especially with Executive 2, because clearly they were the ones that were in communication with the security team throughout this whole process. And I can't imagine that they were not just as culpable as the rest of them. So we will see. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. So yeah, Teresa says it's crazy how much Apple docs were turned over. Seriously, guys, read the charging documents. This is like a time when people say like, oh, fake news or articles are skewed. Read the documents themselves, because then you can at least see what the alleged issues were, because obviously they're just being charged right now. They haven't actually gone to trial or anything like that. So, whew.
Yeah, we have some more questions in the chat. Let's see if there's some more stuff that we can address about this.
Anybody have questions or things they want to say?
I see lots of comments. There's a lot of
Yeah.
conversation happening. Are there any questions about that we could maybe answer or address?
Well, I see Jillian said, we need to question the amount of power given to people with money and big business, because monetary success certainly does not mean good character.
Amen.
I mean, absolutely. And we live in a time when we have, you know, as small sellers, as pretty much all of us are, I'm assuming, we are only a fraction of the money that comes in for eBay. So on the one hand, you could say, well, we're not as important. We only bring in a little bit of money. There's much bigger sellers that, you know, bring in the vast majority of their money. However, we live in a time of social media, and the conversations that are being had publicly about any companies, including eBay, are driven by the community, which includes us. And obviously we're just a tiny little channel, but there's other channels that are much larger. And the tone of how people are talking about eBay as a company is driven by this community, the people who are active on social media, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or Reddit. That's where it all is. So we have voices that are larger, I think, than the actual dollars that we may bring to the bottom line for eBay. We do have voices, and we together can hold them accountable and show them that we want to be a part of the conversation, and we want to be listened to, and see changes happen.
Let's see. So Sandy has a good question. Going forward, how can eBay restore the faith of its sellers? All I can say is that, like we've said a couple of times before, I am hopeful that with the powers that be at the helm right now, with Jordan, with Marnie, with the new CEO that has yet to prove himself to me, because I don't really know that much about that person. But you know, Jordan is the person that would be the point of contact for sellers. So our point of contact person. I have a lot of faith in the fact that they are owning that this has happened. They're not trying to brush it under the rug. They're bringing it right out into the open and discussing the crazy and asking how to regain our faith.
I think it helps that they weren't responsible. They weren't the ones in charge at the time that this happened. So they have like a little bit of distance from it so that they can take responsibility as a company and as a brand. But also make promises for how things might be different. And I think it's very possible. And like I said earlier, I'm very hopeful of that. And I just hope that they take the lessons from what has happened, and not just, I think there's a real danger in pushing it all off on like, okay, it was a few bad apples and we got rid of them. I think they should really question the foundational culture of the company that led to these extremes happening, even if it was a small amount of people that took it to that length. That's what I think.
I think, like Teresa said, and what we're saying is that, you know, the fact that they're openly addressing this and they're discussing with sellers and they're asking for feedback speaks volumes. Yeah. So they don't owe us that.
Nope. And what we said,
and if this had happened in another corporation that did not have such open communication with their employees or their sellers or their users of the platform, do you think if something like this happened on Amazon, that Jeff Bezos is going to have this conversation with his Amazon sellers? Do you think that somebody is going to reach out to the people that sell on Amazon if this happened inside Amazon? And it probably could have, or did, or does. There are bad things that happen within every organization. So the fact that eBay cares enough to call themselves out on the carpet and talk to their sellers openly about it means something to me.
And I think that we talked about it earlier, but I want to mention it again. I think it matters that these changes in leadership and how they've been interacting with sellers has been going on for a while now, these positive changes. And this is not just like their knee-jerk reaction to this. No, it really is a huge scandal. Like, oh, well, you're saying that now. It's nice to hear you say that now. Where were you before? This was already happening. And so that's what gives me hope that trust will be restored. And then it's just going to take time to see where it really goes. But I am hopeful for that.
So there is a question here as well that, yes, let's see, I'm trying to find it. Sorry, let me scroll back a second. Beth asked this question, Beth Reseller Rowboat. Had anyone ever questioned Devin's integrity before this? Were you shocked that you thought it was out of character for what you thought before? I can only say personally, my answer to that is I didn't know Devin on a personal level. So I only saw what all of you saw that attended eBay Open, how he was, would take pictures of people, talk to people for a moment here or there. He was nowhere near as approachable as others within the organization have been. I will say that, especially in person. Was he friendly and nice? Sure, that was his job. Did he say the right things on stage? Sure, also his job. He was there to be a cheerleader for eBay and to rah, and get the audience on board. So again, that was his job. Can I say that spoke to his character or not? No, I didn't know him on a personal level. I don't know. I didn't know him well enough to comment on that.
Yeah. I never felt warm and fuzzy towards him. And I will say that, that before he left, there were major issues where things would happen, like something would happen where there'd be like, whether it was glitches or plan changes that they made that were very upsetting to the seller community. And things would happen and there'd be like a huge reaction to it. And we would be begging eBay to respond.
And it was radio silence.
And that was under his leadership. And it would go on for way too long. And it was just really, really frustrating because honestly, what it comes down to is like, we don't necessarily need to have answers or solutions immediately, but we need to have dialogue. And I think that that's the change that we've seen with Jordan and Marnie and
that open and upfront communication from them when there are issues on the platform is more than 50% of the problem. There are always going to be issues on a platform. And having someone that is open and communicative about those issues and those concerns with timelines on how to fix them. And hey, this is what's happening. We know it's happening. We know it sucks. We're working on it. This is what we're doing. That is all we've ever asked for. And the fact that that has started happening again in the since Devin's gone, actually, is when it really started happening. Did they know that this stuff was happening within the organization? I'm sure. I'm sure that they knew that, when all this stuff started happening 8 months ago and when everybody was let go and the documents are just coming out now, but was it known within the organization? I'm sure it was. Have they been planning to address this as knowing it would eventually become public? I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I think that they're trying to do things the right way now.
Yeah. Teresa, she said, I was shocked. I bet money he didn't know. Then I read the documents.
Yeah.
I'm telling you guys, read the documents and you will see. It's funny though, because so I kind of liken it to like, when you like have a movie that is just so good, or even let's say a television show or a movie that's just so good and you think it's brilliant and you love it. You love the characters, you love the plot, you love the story. And then like, there's one plot hole or the series finale or something happens.
Hello, and we talk about Lost.
And it's so disappointing and it's so upsetting. But the reason it's so upsetting is because of how much you loved it and were connected with it. And I feel like it's exactly what it is with eBay, is that we love the platform. I can still say it is my favorite platform. It really is. It's where I make the most money. It's the way it works. I like listing on it better than any other platform. I do love the access that we have to the employees there. So much about it is so good that when there are things that are a real problem, it hurts that much more. It's that much more frustrating because you're like, if only this issue would be addressed and dealt with, then it would be awesome.
Yeah.
So
it's true. That's true.
I don't know.
Someone said, do they think eBay, what buyers must think of eBay? Jen said, can only imagine what buyers must think. And then some people are saying most of them don't know. I would agree with most of them don't know, but I will tell you, I had at least 4 or 5 friends that have nothing to do with eBay on social media sharing this as a big old WTF story yesterday.
Crazy.
So
if it was like Target or I don't know, Les Schwab, I don't know if everybody has Les Schwab.
They weren't sharing it with me. They were sharing it on their own social media.
It's so crazy.
So 4 people that are not eBay buyers, sellers, or any of the above that happen to think that this story, amidst all of the stories happening in our crazy world right now, was worth discussing. So
yeah, it's just, and again, going back to Jordan. Look at it. Go to his eBay Facebook page because you want to be a part of that conversation. Give him feedback. Give him some positive feedback. I don't want him to have everybody's like negative stuff being piled on him. He's really doing a good job.
He's doing a real good job at answering all of the questions and all of the comments that are being thrown at him. Be respectful. He doesn't have an obligation to answer anything.
Yeah.
He doesn't have an obligation to answer anyone. He's doing it because he feels it's the right thing to do. So coming at him and attacking him for something he had nothing to do with is not the right way to go.
No. But he does, you know, like he had posted a couple days ago, and then he posted again yesterday because, and actually Vicky, I don't know, she might just be hormonal. It's possible, but she like actually like was tearing up at one point because he's just so he comes across very earnest and genuine.
Yes,
and that's what we have a lot of hope about. But he talked about like how shocked and disturbed he is to hear that people are afraid to speak out and say anything negative, and it's like, I mean, this is kind of why, and not because people thought this was going to happen to them, but there's been, like I said earlier, there have been multiple instances of people being intimidated, being threatened because they were saying things that were critical, or being targeted because they were saying critical things about eBay. And that really has happened to multiple people, and this is just like the crazy bizarre.
So there are somewhere around 13,000 employees at eBay, and this in no way represents eBay as an entire company.
No.
And Teresa just said, and Jordan has said this: if you've had a negative experience with an eBay employee, not an eBay rule or an eBay situation or a buyer or a specific issue on your account necessarily, but if you've had a negative experience with an eBay employee directly, then you want to email him. He wants to know about it. He truly does.
It's funny because we had a negative interaction with an eBay employee, and his name was Brian Gilbert, and now he's been arrested and charged with cyberstalking and witness tampering. So I guess, I don't know, glad he's gone.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get the other one.
Yeah. Anyway, definitely, so we're not trying to pile on eBay at all here, but we do think that, there are certain things, I mean, like, look at the whole world everything going on right now. There are certain things that are catalysts. There are certain things that are tipping points. And sometimes if you want real change to happen, you do have to take advantage of those tipping points, those catalysts, because there is a certain amount of pressure on eBay right now to handle this correctly.
Now is your time to speak up. If you want your voice to have an impact in any arena right now is your time to speak up. I think that there is, like Katie said, there's been a tipping point in society right now, love it or hate it, that people are speaking up about abhorrent behavior.
Yeah.
And it should be that way.
And we're not talking about, okay, now is your time to go complain about Good Till Canceled. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the leadership and what our expectations are and what we want to see coming from eBay as a company, as a culture, as members of a community that we are all a part of, because it is eBay.
Mandy has a good comment here. Where'd she just go? I just lost it.
I don't know. Why'd you do that?
It moved.
Right there.
So I would also say, if you've had a great experience with an eBay employee, now is the time to let him know as well. I agree with that. I think that we far too often only complain when we need to complain. We don't give praise or credit where it's due. So you've had someone go above and beyond that has helped you in some way. Now's the time to talk about it.
Yep.
Now's the time to let them know that they're valued.
And we can say we've had several experiences with different eBay employees
and different levels,
lower level, high level, that have been amazing, that have been awesome, people that are still there that we love. So we definitely have had very, very good experiences, and we do love it as a whole.
Yeah. I do have one thing to say. We're going to talk about our show that we're going to have tomorrow. The one thing I do want to say is the guest of our show tomorrow is a former eBay employee who had absolutely nothing to do with this situation. Let me be very clear. We will not be entertaining questions about the current eBay situation on the show tomorrow, because that person has nothing to do with it, and that's not the point of the show. So I'm just want to put that right out there now, because some people think because she's a former eBay employee that she's the person to ask questions about, but
no, that's not what it's about. So anyway, but she is an awesome person that we met because of eBay.
Correct. And she is someone that we've had fantastic interactions with that we met because of eBay. So
and was much beloved by many sellers. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely.
eBay events, like having to get in line to even be able to talk to her. But anyway,
yeah,
it was almost
I mean,
impossible.
she's been a fantastic. She's become a friend. That she became a friend when she was still working at eBay, and she's a friend now that she's no longer working at eBay, and that's why we asked her to be a part of our show tomorrow.
Yeah, she's awesome. So yeah, so definitely come and watch our show tomorrow and be a part of the conversation. It's called Conversations That Matter. We have Dominic Hollins. Hollins is going to be moderating it, and we're doing that at 1 p.m. tomorrow. You thought today's subject matter was a little tough. Tomorrow we're going to take it to the next level. Apparently
we've decided to just throw all caution to the wind this week. I think tomorrow's show is far more important than the show that we have had today. I think that it might be the most important show that we've ever done. I can easily say that. It will not be our general off-the-cuff type of show like today and every other show where we just kind of talk and riff. It is going to be somewhat scripted.
Yeah. Well, at least on our part.
We're going to have
to shut our mouths.
It's been very important to us. We've been working on this for a while, and there have been several hours put into planning this properly. And if you know Katie and I, you know that that's not the type of show that we normally do. But I feel like the subject matter was far too important to get it wrong. And we want to have this conversation and have this conversation make a meaningful impact.
Yeah.
I feel like if you are confused by current society conversations,
who's not?
If you are, it's true. If you are unsure of what to say or how to say the right thing, or you're afraid to say the wrong thing, or you have genuine questions, not understanding some of the anger and the outrage and the tough conversations that are happening right now in our country, I think that you represent a great number of us. There are a lot of us that have questions and don't understand how to be or do or say the right thing, or don't know how to ask the questions, or are afraid to ask the questions because we don't want to come across as insensitive.
Right.
And we don't want to be judged for the questions or for the way that we're thinking. I think that that's very common. None of us are doing this 100% right all the time, myself included.
That's life.
So I think it's really important that we have this conversation, but it was not our conversation to have. So we wanted to bring someone on who is an expert in diversity and talking about diversity, not just with eBay, but it's something she's been doing for 15 years.
And also her own personal experience.
And her own personal experience as a woman of color.
Yeah, indeed. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for coming and hanging out with us for the show. I feel like we kind of covered the stuff that we wanted to cover. It was definitely a little heated and crazy, but I mean, this needs to be talked about. I know it's embarrassing for eBay. I get it. It's got to be really, really hard, especially for Jordan, who's kind of in the front having to take all of the criticism and stuff. But it's like, we got to talk about it because it affects all of us, guys. Come on. It affects everybody.
Yep. And kind of like our show tomorrow, that also affects everybody. I mean, it's a life that we, the country that we're living in right now, the world that we're living in right now. And it's important, as someone had said in our chat, Jillian said that it's time to elevate Black voices. And I agree with that. And this is a platform that we have, and this is the only platform that we have. So whether it's 2 of you watching this or 200 of you watching it, we have a platform that should be used to help facilitate these conversations. We feel very strongly about that. So we're doing it.
Absolutely.
Diving in.
True that. I don't know. That wasn't that very powerful ending.
Really wasn't.
Sorry. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. Again, read those charging documents down below so you can know the true story so far, all the full details so far of what has happened.
If anything more outrageous comes up, we'll talk about it. So
yeah. And then again, please go check out Jordan Sweetnam and his Facebook page. Please be respectful. And appreciate the fact that he is putting himself out there and he's personally responding to people's comments and asking for people to connect with him if they have any questions. So I really appreciate that he's doing that, and I think we should all give him some respect and treat him kindly because he's got a tough job ahead of him.
I would not envy the position that he's in right now. I wouldn't. So
yep, for sure. All right, guys, we got a lot of work to do. Our house is a mess. We got a million things to do. It's ridiculous.
I'm gonna actually try to do some work.
Yeah.
And then I have another conference call in 5 hours.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, we appreciate you. Get back to work, and we will see you hopefully tomorrow afternoon for our Conversations That Matter show with Dominic Hollins. So, bye, guys.